Imagine not being Leeds, not feeling this pain, not dancing through thunder, not walking through rain. Imagine not rising with fists in the air when the world turned its back and no one would care. We've lived in the ashes, we've drowned in defeat, but still we stand proud on our battered old feet. Imagine not loving with all that you are. Imagine not being Leeds.
We love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.
We do love you, Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. Now then, folks, happy Thursday. Full of cold, which isn't great. But yeah, I thought I'd do a bit of a different video today. So, as you know, on this channel, I'm a massive Willy Gnonto fan, massive Daniel James fan, and a huge, large Ramazani fan who was no longer at the club. Now, Okafor, obviously, has come in. He's hopefully going to be our maverick. But when it comes to wingers, we've still got Jack Harrison and Brendan Aaronson, which you all know I'm not fans of. I will support anyone wearing a Leeds United shirt. Those players give their all every time they pull the shirt on. Fair play. But I thought I'd do a little bit of digging today. I thought I'd look into, because I'm sick of hearing the narrative of some of these wingers that Leeds have. They don't get back. They don't work hard for the team. Which, as a fan, a paying fan, which I go to most games, the eye test tells me different. You know, I've never watched Ramazani last season and thought he's not tracking back, he's not digging in. I think he gets back as good as, or got back as good as anyone. I think Willy Gnonto's a definite workhorse. You see him get way past the halfway line, behind the halfway line in terms of defending and helping his fullback, whichever side he's playing on. Again, I feel like it's just quite an easy thing to say when you've got a narrative of, you know, you can't see wrong in Farke, you can't see wrong in Aaronson, you can't see wrong in certain things that I do think a lot of people use their own narrative to support their beliefs. But when you actually look at the numbers, because for me the eye test tells you different. The eye test tells me they all try, they all work hard. Yeah, you've obviously got players who are more natural going forward and more defensive-minded players. It's just the nature of the beast. Everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses. But I think when it comes to that position as a whole at Leeds United, there's a lot being said about Brendan Aaronson being the only winger that tracks back and defends. You know, Jack Harrison does too, but it's like no one else does, and I don't understand. It's like you've either got to play an ultra-defensive winger in an Aaronson or a Harrison, and the other ones don't track back. The other ones are just the silky players who want to go get you goals, which is what we need now, by the way. We need goals. We need chance creation. We need efforts on their goal. Without that, you can't win a game of football. You can concede and still win a game. Whoa, who'd have fucking known it? But if you don't score, you've got no chance of winning a game. Teaching you to suck eggs there, but that's a fact. And I thought I'd look at the numbers a little bit more. So I'm going to put them on screen as I go. I've just noted them down now. But you look at the numbers. Willy Gnonto, this is just defensive numbers. On the screen, you'll obviously see when it comes to attack, I didn't really need to compare the attacks of Brendan Aaronson to the other wingers because it's chalk and cheese. We all know attack-wise, you're going to get so much more in terms of numbers. Everything, every metric is better pretty much, bar pass completion, which Brendan Aaronson, I think, tops out of these wingers. Pass completion, again, he's a risk-averse player. He's usually going to look for the easier pass, whereas when you've got a more flamboyant flair player, their job is to beat a man, go get you a goal, go win your game. So their percentiles when it comes to pass completion and maybe losing the ball will always be a little bit more because they're always trying to force that pass. They're always trying to make something happen, which is what we all love football for, right? Watching players express themselves and enjoy themselves at the top end of the pitch. I didn't get into football watching centre-halves thinking, wow, this is exciting. I got into football watching, you know, wingers and strikers and flamboyant attack-minded players going and scoring goals. And so the pass completion, the beating a man, the losing the ball now again will happen. And I know for a fact this is something Farke doesn't like. He likes to keep the ball, which is fair enough. Look where we are, newly promoted side. Keep the ball, and if there's nothing on, sort of pass sideways, pass back, and try and keep possession and probe till you get an opportunity. So I get that. But when you look at the numbers defensively, which is, I think, proves it's a bit of a myth that Aaronson's the only defensive winger we've got capable of keeping it tight at the back. So Willy Gnonto, tackles per 90, 0.87. Interceptions, 0.48. Blocks, 0.92. Clearances, 0.53. Aerial 1, 0.82. So in those 5 categories there, as you can see in the box, he's got 3 greens and 2 reds, which means compared to people, for the minutes he's played, compared to others of his position, over 90, that's where the average is out. Obviously you can see on there, when it comes to attack, they're pretty much all green, way above what Brendan Aaronson's are. But let's move on to Brendan's. So his tackles, 1.46 in the green. So he's averaging just over half a tackle more per game than Willy Gnonto. So a tackle, let's even say 1 tackle more a game than Brendan Aaronson, than Willy Gnonto. When it comes to interceptions, he's below. He's doing half the interceptions what Willy Gnonto is. When it comes to blocks, slightly more than Willy Gnonto. When it comes to clearances, Willy Gnonto does more clearances a game. And when it comes to aerial one, Willy Gnonto wins more headers. For the stats with him, still wins more headers than Brendan Aaronson. So when it comes to Brendan Aaronson against Willy Gnonto defensively, it's marginal. As you can see, it is marginal. Defensively, the margin is it's a smidgen if you are even going to tip it in Brendan Aaronson's favour. He does more tackles per game, you know, maybe averaging 8 tackles more per game. May cover a little bit more ground. But the stats back up the fact that it's just a myth. Willy Gnonto does track back. Willy Gnonto does have metrics in the defensive part of the game what are equal to, and in some areas better than Brendan Aaronson. But look at the attacking difference. It's chalk and cheese. Look at the attacking difference there. Willy Gnonto is well deserved of a start over someone like Brendan Aaronson. That's a fact. The difference in defence to the difference in attack is chalk and cheese. It's night and day. So for me, that myth that he's the only one who does it is bollocks. It's absolute bollocks, and that's something that's annoyed me as a match day fan, paying me money and getting told every week that Brendan Aaronson's the only one who's capable of defending. I don't agree. I think if you're a good manager, you can tell somebody to defend if that's not the game, and if you're a good enough manager and they respect you, you'll get that result out of them. But you can't tell Brendan Aaronson to go be a Willy Gnonto because he hasn't got the capabilities. But I think these stats prove that, Willy Gnonto does track back. Willy Gnonto is as effective in defensive areas or close to as Brendan Aaronson. So yeah, Daniel James. You think he's defensively sound? He gets back, he's up down. He's we all know Dan James, he bleeds for that shirt. But his numbers, I'll put them on screen now, not brilliant. 0.94 when it comes to tackles, so when it, similar to Willy Gnonto, slightly better. 0.15 when it comes to interceptions, again, blocks 0.6, 0.26 for clearances, aerial duels 0.87, so only 1 in green there for those categories in red. Below Willy Gnonto's defensive numbers, below Brendan Aaronson's. So again, look at the attacking side, way ahead of Brendan Aaronson. So there should be no conversation here that Brendan Aaronson is a better defender than the 2 players he's playing against, slightly better than James and similar to Willy Gnonto. So again, the difference is minute, if at all, in some of these cases. And a bit of a wild card one I wanted to throw in here. I want to bring up larger Ramazani. So this is based on the last 365 days. So obviously it's the last 12 months. He hasn't played as many minutes as others, but we know going forward he's a maverick. He's unbelievable. Look at the green again on the chart. I'll put it on now. But you look at his defensive capabilities. Again, there's not much in it. When it comes to tackles per 90, 2.23. Compared to Brendan Aaronson, 1.46. Compared to Willy Gnonto's 0.87. So when it comes to tackles, I got told larger Ramazani don't defend. He don't track back. Over 2 tackles a game. Almost 1 tackle more than Brendan Aaronson, who's the only defensive winger we've got. And all the other metrics, as you can see there, marginal in comparison to Brendan Aaronson. Marginal. Clearances, more than Brendan Aaronson. When it comes to blocks, close to Willy Gnonto and Brendan Aaronson. But this is a guy that can't defend. But again, look at the metrics between a Brendan Aaronson, who offers you work rate with no end product, or look at the other 3 that, guess what, have work rate and do dig in for the team. Large Ramazani did dig in for the team, but I haven't seen anyone else really look into the numbers. It's probably more numbers that may show Aaronson's more worthy of that spot. I don't know, but looking at the metrics defensively, there isn't much between them, if anything at all. The eye test tells me they all track back and they all dig in. So I don't know where this sort of myth has come from that Brendan Aaronson's the only one capable of doing it. And I know there's Jack Harrison too, but I didn't want to bring him up. Just sort of comparing Aaronson to the others. then yeah, let me know what you guys think, because I think it's blatantly obvious looking at the numbers there that, you know, he shouldn't be starting on the wing for Leeds United. He shouldn't have been playing last season in the Championship for me as a 10, but recruitment sort of, you know, played its part. If we were still playing a 4-2-3-1 and Aaronson were playing in the 10, again, I couldn't argue because recruitment has played its part. But when it comes to him playing on the wing, when you've got a Willy Gnonto, when you've got a Dan James, you've got to be carrying, they've got to be coming on the pitch to play on a stretcher for me, for them not to be playing over Brendan Aaronson on that wing. Does he start against Wolves, Brendan Aaronson? I think he does. Does he play well? I think he does what he does. I think he runs around, he harasses, he makes himself a nuisance, but ultimately, I think we'll always be lacking. Hopefully he goes and scores a goal and this video will look redundant, but give it next week, week after, over the course of a season, you will not get as much out of Brendan Aaronson, defensively or offensively for me, as a combination, than you do out of the other wingers. So yeah, please let me know what you guys think. Please like, please subscribe and all that jargon. Take care, and I will see you soon. Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.